The plan was that as the Israelites were going to pass through this valley between two mountains, they would pounce on them and massacre them. And without us knowing anything about it, those two mountains, Hashem did a miracle, and the two mountains came together and they got squashed.
Parashat Terumah.
Parashat Terumah.
What is going on? We go heavy into bonkers halacha.
Oh yeah, but do you know what? I just wonder if we can, before we start, I just want to talk about Thursday. Can we talk about Thursday?
We can talk about Thursday.
Thursday was. I don't have the words to put into to sort of describe Thursday. The pain, the suffering.
There are no words. None.
The heartbreak. But let's just talk about what happened in the evening.
Yeah.
You know, we have something happened. There was supposed to be some massive terrorist attack. 3 buses exploded. People got off just before. Somebody saw a thing, wrong time, whatever it was, right? Then they found out that there was probably going to be some suicide bombers on trains as well at the morning at the same time. Could even be, I saw that 𝘮𝘀 wrote that he'd heard, again, I don't know how verified this is, but he heard that this was supposed to be just the initial distraction.
Yeah.
So that there could be 𝘮𝗲 another, you know, Simchas Torah attack from 𝘮𝘩𝘀 Judea and Samaria. And I think that because of the devastation of the morning, which is still going on, right? It's not, you know.
For sure.
I think that we perhaps missed it. We're supposed to be dancing from that. This is an unbelievable insight as to the miracles that God is doing for us the whole time. I think we talked about this actually some months ago. Do we talk about in one of our podcasts together about the mountains and when the Jewish people were sort of walking through the Amorites had hidden inside caves of the mountains, and the Israelites were passing through.
My memory is less these days.
Okay,
Sounds good.
And the plan was that as the Israelites were going to pass through this valley between two mountains, they would pounce on them and massacre them. And without us knowing anything about it, those two mountains, Hashem did a miracle, and the two mountains came together and they got squashed, right? And we didn't speak about this.
No,
and we would not know anything about this were it not that the miraculous well, this stone that was producing water that followed us around the desert for those 40 years, suddenly started flowing blood.
Wow.
And the Jewish people see this blood flowing out. Where's this from? And then they see the dead bodies and they realize that, wow, we had no concept this was going on. Hashem has given us an insight of a miracle that took place where he protected us from distraction. And then he gave us an insight. I really feel that that's what Thursday was, that Thursday evening. We were given an insight. He's doing it to us. He's doing it for us all the time. He's protecting us for so many things, but we don't normally see it. We were given, on Shabbat, we say in our prayers, we say, Samcheinu b'shuatecha. Or some versions are v'samach nafshenu b'shuatecha, which basically means gladden us or make us happy with your saving, right? When you save us, make us happy. Now, the simple reading of that is save us so that we'll be happy. But I think perhaps the way to read it is allow us to be happy when you're saving us, because you're saving us all the time. You're doing all of these things for us. Give us that insight so that we can be joyous about it.
So we can connect to it.
At that time, in the 40 years, when this miracle happened to them, they sang a song to Hashem. There's a song, a shira, that they sang to Hashem in that moment when they realized what we should be singing and dancing about what happened on Thursday, because that could really well have been thousands and thousands of people. It was supposed to be during rush hour in the morning, mothers, children, thousands of people. Okay, we should be singing and dancing for the amazing thing that happened to us. And
I think there's a case as well, though. Yes, I agree with everything you've said, but let's be honest, things are so overwhelming.
Mm-hmm.
We're dealing with family members because we're all one family. I'm Yisrael. We're dealing with the knowledge of family members going through absolute hell. So therefore, like on certain times in the year where joy has to be suppressed, halachically, mandated, what do you know, there's also that sensitivity as well. Of course, he who doesn't believe in Hashem, you know, like when the bus thing happened, you're like, thank you, Hashem. Like even a quiet little one, like I acknowledge that. That's also a simcha.
For sure.
I understand.
But I agree with you. There are times where we have to sort of tone down, but we would never say to the families of the 6 hostages that were released on Shabbat, listen, you need to tone down your simcha because 𝘮𝘪𝘳𝘏𝗵𝗂𝘆 is mourning his family. We wouldn't say that because we understand that for them, this is a real simcha. It really is. And I think that for the Jewish people, what happened on Thursday evening is an unprecedented simcha. I actually do not remember the last time where we had such a clear demonstration of the fact that hundreds, possibly thousands of Jews were saved. Now, let's tie this into Terumah, because Terumah is all about getting things together so that we can build a temple or a tabernacle, which is essentially a moving temple that we had with us in the desert. We don't have a temple now. What relevance does any of this have to us? I think possibly the biggest relevance is this particular verse, which everybody quotes. Let me just get it for you. It says here, "V'asu li mikdash," you shall make for me a temple. "V'shachanti b'tocham," and I will dwell in them. It doesn't say, and I will dwell in it. The sages point out, it doesn't say, I will dwell in it. It says, I will dwell in them, meaning you make a temple for me and I will dwell inside them, inside the Jewish people themselves. Now, we don't have a structure or a temple. Unfortunately, we have that thing that I have to see and I want to cry every time I see it. Everybody's got these beautiful pictures with this golden
I can't stand it. I won't have one in the house.
This is not something to admire or in any way. It is a symbol of our constant pain that there is a nation that has trampled over our holy place 100%. And then gaslights us by saying that we were never there. It should be a constant source of pain. I was just at the kotel. My son had his first hanachat tefillin, first time putting on his tefillin. I saw somebody walking in there with his shirt torn. Right, it was the first time he'd been to the kotel for a while, and if there are many people who will do that, they will tear their shirt. You should feel the pain of there, but we don't have that temple. But what we do have is we have the possibility of creating our body as a temple, not necessarily the way that term is used by some people, but understanding that we have the opportunity to bring Hashem's Shekhinah, Hashem's presence inside of us. I think literally the most basic step for that is seeing Hashem in the world. Grabbing opportunities like we've just talked about, what happened on Thursday, and see that Hashem is with us,
and celebrate it,
incorporate it inside ourselves. Walk around with that feeling. Hashem is with me. Hashem's with us right now in this room. Hashem's everywhere, right? Hashem is looking after us. He's protecting us. He's giving us. He's making things grow. He's making it freezing outside. He's doing all those different things that are needed for the crops and for food, for our health, for every breath we take. We're supposed to be singing and thanking to Hashem. That is the most basic thing. And I think that is something that we all of us need to work on and tap into. I agree there are sensitivities. How much we should celebrate, we could discuss.
Yeah, of course.
We are discussing.
Yeah.
But
I like what Rabbi Sachs said on this point. It's not like, where is Hashem? Like, what does Hashem do? It's how much do we let Hashem in? It's a very different thing because, like, at the end of the day, for whatever reason, which we'll never fathom why Hashem made all of this and put us here in this as you said last week, in this imperfect situation, totally imperfect, and that's called reality. So anyone who lives in this reality where we're trying to create a perfect environment, a Hollywood kind of life, that's not reality. And that's why you always come a cropper in that situation. But how do you change the imperfection is you let Hashem in. And that's just your choice. What pains me is when we see situations like what happened on Thursday, and there's literally infinite examples I can give in this war, before the war, the state of Israel. Oh my God, the Jewish people surviving history. I mean, that's quite a big one.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me that as a nation, we have this major resistance just to let him in and let us be his spouse. Let's just, that's the one thing we haven't really tried. We argue, the UN, they're monsters, these Hamas, hang on. There's one thing we never tried, which is let's be a godly people.
Yeah.
Really easy to say.
Very difficult to do.
I'm not naive. I understand it's a process. I was not religious till 25, so I understand that. But that's the work.
I think you said a very important thing there. People sometimes say to me, why should this country be more religious? Or why should we run on guidelines? And the answer is really simple. Our history is so completely absurd. It's off the charts. It makes no sense. Right. Again and again and again, weird things have happened, both for the good and for the bad. And if you look at that and you see, okay, this we're different in some way. How are we different? I heard, please forgive me, I don't remember which hostage it was who came out and sitting there alone day after day after day thinking, okay, I'm Jewish, but what does that mean? Because my life has had nothing Jewish in it.
Wow.
What does it mean that I'm Jewish? And he's come out and he's decided, whatever it is that he's decided to take on, he's decided that being Jewish means more than just being another nation. Just another nation with its own country, the same as everybody else. No, more than that. We're more than that. We're bigger than that. We have a much, much greater role in this world for that. We have to live up to that. It's not easy, but it's what we're here for.
The slogan that unfortunately goes around, and I'm not trying to make a political point here because I don't like politics in these podcasts, but this slogan that goes around, anyone or anything but Bibi, right? So actually, there's a better version of that. The Jewish people, unfortunately, many exist on the premise of anything but Hashem, anything but God, meaning we don't want that type of being Jewish. And that means in that statement, it's because they know ultimately that's exactly what they got to do.
Yeah. And by the way, I just, because we have to be very clear here, the state of Israel was started mainly by people who were trying to eradicate Judaism from us.
True.
But Rav Kook, who is right next to you over there, behind your head, he could see the neshama, the shining soul, shining through those people. He didn't reject them. It wasn't about rejecting. Correct. He understood that whatever it looked like with these people, even though it looked like they were trying to destroy the religion, they really were, but even though it looked like they were trying to create a country that looks exactly the same as everybody else, deep down, the thing that was driving them was their soul screaming out for Hashem and a relationship and being back in the country that he gave us, even though they themselves didn't see it. And if you read his writings, you hear what he says, like the way he spoke at Herzl's funeral, and the way he talked about him. Herzl, who, if you were to ask him straight out, the whole reason that he built the country was so that we could be, he may not even have wanted this country. He may have wanted, he was even perhaps willing to agree to some other place, right? And yet, Rav Kook stood up at his funeral and spoke about him in terms of
What he did do, the positive
what
aspects.
he did, and not just that that it was to do bad. It was, no, this is his soul screaming out. I want a relationship with Hashem, even though the outer body doesn't necessarily realize it. We have to appreciate that. We have to appreciate every single person here, every single person who built this country, every single person who's still building this country, even the politicians who seem to be working against what we feel is the correct way forward for this country. We have to understand these are people who've given their life for this country, and their soul is what is driving them on. And perhaps we may disagree with what's going on and what their conclusions are. But it's something we always have to. I feel that what Rav Kook did there was very, very important. Can I say just one step forward? I think that just to finish off this podcast today, I think that each person needs to understand, what does it mean to turn ourselves into a temple so that God can rest his presence within us. And I think that if you were to look at the temple, although the concept of animal sacrifice is very foreign to us, the concept of the temple is, what are you willing to sacrifice for a relationship with your Creator, your Father in heaven, the one who actually wants to have a deep, meaningful relationship with you? You know, in every other area of your life, that the only way you can have a deep, meaningful relationship, whether it's with your wife, with your children, with your friends, with whoever it happens to be, you're going to have to sacrifice something. There is something you have to sacrifice in order to have a deep, meaningful relationship. If we're going to turn ourselves into a temple and to have God's presence dwell within us, what are we willing to sacrifice? It's just a question. It's not something that anybody else can answer for you. Each person has to ask that question of themselves. What am I willing to sacrifice for this relationship so that my body can be a temple? And as the famous words by a deep, deep Kabbalist that were turned into a song, I'm turning my heart into a temple, and inside of it, my deepest soul, my soul on the highest level, is going to be the mizbeach, the altar on which I sacrifice some part of myself in order to have a relationship. What is that going to be? What are you willing to sacrifice for that relationship?